everyone, welcome to Crochet and Crime, where I crochet and I tell true crime stories. Today we'll be talking about Jeffrey Dahmer, one of the most infamous serial killers out there. I would like to put out a quick disclaimer. This story does get pretty graphic, and it does talk about like cannibalism and a whole lot of other things. So if you are not into any of that stuff, I suggest you click away. And with that, let's get into it. So Jeffrey was raised in a very messed up household. He said that when he was younger, his mom fell into a depression and would not want to pay any mind to her kids, let alone raise them. And his father was at university, and he wasn't home a lot to be able to take care of his kids. And whenever he was home, his mom would get all of his attention, or pull him away so she can have his attention. And so the only parent who actually kind of wanted to see the kids and be able to raise them was pulled away from being able to do so. Because of this neglect, Jeffrey started picking up hobbies and obsessions. Like a normal kid, he was finding himself. And the thing he chose to obsess over was dead animals. Like a messed up fairy tale princess. And, friends of his say he would collect bugs and, like ladybugs, dragonflies, those types of bugs. And he progressed to keeping roadkill. He would dissect these animals, and he said he did it because he was curious about what was going on in there. Like, he wanted to go through their anatomy. In high school, Jeffrey started bringing alcohol to school and drinking during the day. And he was only about 14 during this time. And during all of this, he had come to find out that he was gay. And he didn't want to tell his parents because, they had a very rocky relationship. So he kept that a little secret. And he had a small relationship with another guy, and that's when he would fantasize about controlling submissive men or dominating them. Jeffrey's mom and dad got a divorce because their marriage was not good. It really wasn't the best, and they realized that, got a divorce, and Jeff's father moved out. And after Jeffrey graduated high school, his mother got custody of his younger brother and left Jeffrey in their family home and moved away, leaving Jeffrey on his own. During this time, Jeffrey spotted a hitchhiker and saw he was a little cutie patootie. And so he was like, hey, why don't you come on back to my place and we'll have a couple drinks, get to know each other, be best friends. And so they go back, drink, have a grand old time. Jeffrey felt like he had finally gained a friend, but eventually the hitchhiker wanted to head out, which upset Jeffrey. And so he hit him in the back of the head with a dumbbell, strangled him until he died, removed the victim's clothes, and pleased himself while staring at him. The next morning, Jeffrey saw that the guy was still there, and he was like, well, my bad. So he dismembered him and buried him in the backyard. A few weeks passed, and he digs him back up, and his father actually taught him how to preserve bones. He didn't show him, but when Jeffrey was younger and was new to his obsession of dead animals, he asked his dad, who was a chemist, how to preserve bones. Like, his dad thought they were like bonding, because like Jeffrey was like a very quiet kid, and he thought he was just really interested in his profession, so he told him. So Jeffrey preserves the man's bones, he crushes the bones and scatters them outside in his backyard, front yard. Wherever there was grass, he scattered them. So Jeffrey's dad and his new fiancée pull up to the house and see that Jeffrey is living alone, and they decide to help Jeffrey be more productive with his life instead of just sitting at home all day. Definitely not killing no people, definitely not. And so he tries out college, he drops out, and then he enlists in the military, where 2 men said that Jeffrey sexually assaulted them. And Jeffrey was discharged, but not because of the allegations, but it was because of his alcohol abuse. Jeffrey moved to Florida because he could not face his father and tell him he failed at yet another thing. So Jeffrey got a job at a restaurant, and he would stay at a motel. He eventually got evicted from the motel because he would not pay for the room because he spent most of his money on alcohol. Jeffrey moved back home with his dad and stepmom, and Jeffrey was arrested for drunk and disoriented misconduct because of his continued alcohol abusement. Jeffrey's dad kicked him out, and Jeffrey went to live with his grandma in Wisconsin. His grandma seemed to be the only person who really showed him love and affection, and that really seemed to lift Jeffrey's spirits a bit, and he seemed more happy with his grandma. He helped her a lot and even found a job. No. 10 months later, he was laid off, unfortunately, and he spent his time in gay bathhouses where he would sleep with workers, and he said he did not like it because they moved too much and they made too much noise, and so he drugged them. He did this about 12 times, and the owner found out and was like, hey, get the hell out. And so he did, and he banned him from ever coming back. And so Jeffrey went to a bar, found a guy, went back to his hotel, and they were drinking and they were talking and everything was going great, and then they passed out. They woke up and the guy was dead. Jeffrey had no recollection of killing the guy, but it happened. He put the guy in a suitcase, went back to his grandma's house, and a week later he opened the suitcase, dismembered the guy, took the flesh off his bones, crushed his bones, and discarded the evidence. He kept his head, but the other stuff had to go. He wanted to preserve the skull, but he messed up the solution, and the skull broke. And so he was determined to get that skull, so he looked for a victim. Jeffrey actually found a few more victims in gay bars and would strangle them and preserve them, rinse and repeat. He found a very young sex worker, asked him to model for some nude photos for money, and the worker was like, hell yeah, let's go. So they have the photo shoot, Jeffrey drugs him, does the thingy thing, and unalives the child. Jeffrey did this a few more times, and one time his grandma called for him, and Jeffrey had just drugged a man, so he didn't want his grandma to see such a sight, so he tried to play it off, but she knew he was not down there alone, so Jeffrey claimed that the guy was sick, and so he carried him and took him to the hospital and dropped him off outside the hospital. Like, he didn't go in with him, he just was like, that's your problem. One day, Jeffrey's grandma asked him to move out since he had a habit of bringing guys home, and she did not like that. So she also called him out for the foul smell in the basement, and she thought her grandson was a stinky boy and wanted him out. So Jeffrey got an apartment, and the next day got in trouble for fondling a drugged young boy. He was also arrested for second-degree sexual assault on a minor. Jeffrey ended up moving back in with his grandma and got himself his 5th victim. He did everything he had been doing, but this time he kept both the head and of the victim. He said he found this victim exceptionally attractive. That next year when Jeffrey moved away, he kept those things with him. I mean, like, that schlong and head meant everything to Jeffrey. Hi everyone, Dean here. Sorry I had to cut this video a little short. YouTube will not allow me to post videos longer than 15 minutes, so I will have to cut this into a 2-parter. So, sorry about that. Yeah, I'll be posting part 2 tomorrow, so you don't have to wait a week for part 2. So, yeah. Sorry.